into our communities. Talking about a criminal justice system and a war on drugs has become a war on people in some communities over others. 2.3 million of our fellow Americans behind bars right now. The highest incarceration rate in the world today. It is right here at home in the United States of America, and is disproportionately composed of people of color. Too many there serving time for a non-violent drug crime, including, get this, possession of marijuana, a substance that is legal or decriminalized or medicinalized in the majority of the states in this country right now. And we are still locking up women and men today who, upon release for possession of marijuana, will be forced to check a box on every employment application form going forward, meaning it's less likely that they get the job, no longer qualifying for student loans to improve themselves through higher education at extraordinary cost and consequence to all of us, those behind bars, those who are paying to keep them behind bars. So in Texas, in the smallest of towns, in the biggest of cities, in the bluest of places, in the reddest of counties, we talked about ending not just the war on drugs, ending the prohibition on marijuana, and expunging the arrest records for everyone caught for possession of something that's legal. And now we get to be here with you, and I am so grateful to be in Council Bluffs. We literally just flew in. We drove all the way from Omaha. That's another state. By Scott, just met his wife as we were coming in. I understand that Representative McConkey is here as well. Thank you for being here, for your service, for helping your constituents out in a very difficult time. Though we're all the way in Texas, we're very mindful of what people here in Iowa and in Nebraska and along the Missouri River have endured. Record flooding following record runoff, the highest levels that we've seen for as long as we have been keeping records of the Missouri River. In Houston, Texas, my hometown, or my home state, 58 inches of rain fell from the sky in a single storm. That was the third 500-year flood, and it was the landfall record for rainfall from one storm for as long as we've been keeping records in North America. We just checked in with our friends in Davenport along the Mississippi River. They have seen flood levels that broke the record that was set in 1993 in Davenport. So I know that you, Representative Hall, and others in state and local government, and just neighbors, are doing everything that they can to help one another out right now in the short term, that we're going to work together to make long-term investments in the strength of our communities to ensure that we are ready for the next flood. But we're also going to take this challenge of a warming planet, 1 degree increase since just 1980, on track to warm another 3 or 4 or 5 degrees Celsius if we do not change course now. And these floods and the droughts through which our farmers in Texas attempt to persist, the wildfires that are raging at record levels in California, the loss of life, the loss of property, and the understanding that left unchecked, our kids, the generations that follow us are in for a hell that we can only imagine. Now that we know this is real, and that the facts and the science and the truth is undeniable, then we're going to come together not as Democrats or Republicans or independents, not big city folks, not small town Americans, but Americans first and foremost, period, before we are anything else. We're going to free ourselves from a dependence on fossil fuels. We're going to transition to renewable energy in every single part of this economy, not just how we get from point A to point B, but how we run the generators that keep these lights on right now, the building materials that we use, helping farmers through the Farm Bill to make a profit, planting cover crops to pull more carbon out of the air, to make sure that they disturb less of it in the soil with precision tilling and other technologies that we can open up to them. Every single one of us is going to do everything we can while we still have time to do that, anticipating the questions that the people of the future, our kids and grandkids, are going to ask of us. When you knew exactly what was happening, in fact, your homes and your farms had just flooded. You just saw that superstorm Harvey in Houston, Texas. You just saw these wildfires in California. What did you do when you still had time to do it? We are going to have the best of all answers for them. We, this divided country, decided that we were going to come together. We're going to do what was asked of us, not just for ourselves and this generation, but every generation that follows. Are you with me on this? Principal Kim Kashmirchak, thank you for hosting us at Woodrow Wilson Middle School here today. Bringing so many great people here together. This is the second educational institution that I've had a chance to address my fellow Americans in just today. This morning I had the distinct honor of offering the commencement address at Paul Quinn College. It's an historically black college in Dallas, Texas, founded in 1872. It's been headquartered in Austin, then in Waco, Texas. Now its home is in Dallas, and it is an extraordinary institution. Let me tell you a couple of things about Paul Quinn College. On the first day of school, for those young 18-year-old women and men who are entering higher education, it's a summer bridge program, they touch a bell. It's the heritage bell, reclaimed from the Garrison slave plantation. This bell now rings to remind those students of our shared history and our past and our triumph over a chapter of shame in our history. It's the first thing that they will touch as they enter the school. And last night, during the flag raising ceremony for those seniors, it's the last thing that they are going to touch on that campus. But we talked about how, though there were victories in this country to overcome slavery, though there were victories in my home state of Texas, which for 20 years, not in the 1800s, but in the 1900s, shut out African Americans from their right to vote from 1924 to 1944. Though we had a convict leasing program in our state that worked more than 3,500 of our fellow human beings, Americans, African Americans, to death, again, not during slavery, long after it had ended, and not just men, but children worked to death as well. Though we have access to higher education, access to a better system of justice, our fight is not over yet. We talked about how in Texas we ranked 50th in voter turnout before this 2018 election, because people solely based on the color of their skin, their ethnicity, their country of national origin were drawn out of a congressional district, drawn out of an ability to have their vote make a difference, drawn out of their voice being heard. When you add to that racist voter ID laws that say you can use a license to carry a firearm to prove who you are at the ballot box, but you cannot use your student ID at Paul Quinn College to prove who you are at the ballot box, the system is working as designed. I already mentioned the fact that though we've done away with convict leasing, we sure are locking up a lot of people, consigning them to a much narrower future, to more constrained options going forward. And when it comes to higher education, in some ways, Paul Quinn College is the exception, not the rule. It is the first urban work college in the country. What that means is that every student is paired with a job that brings down the total cost of their tuition. They have cut in half the amount of student debt that their graduates carry right now. Almost all of them are guaranteed a job that they have been connected to before they graduate. Real purpose, real function, real dignity connected not just to their education, but the work and the career that will follow. We need that right now. In a country that has $1.5 trillion in outstanding student loan debt, the average graduate is carrying $40,000 on her back that she's going to pay off until she gets it done or until she's in the grave. Amen. It's the one kind of debt you cannot shake in this country, and we have saddled so many of our fellow Americans with that debt, and we are stalling their progress, and it is a drag on this economy, and we can absolutely do better. Listening to those students, listening to others as I've traveled the country, every single one of the challenges that we have has a solution proposed in meetings, in communities, from people like you. When it comes to student loan debt, Let's forgive that debt if you're willing to dedicate some part of your life to public service. If you're willing to teach, provide public school education, work in the VA for one of those 45,000 funded but unfilled VA positions. I want to make sure that you're not carrying that debt going forward. I want to make sure that community college is free to every single American and four-year education debt-free. It's an investment, but it's an investment that will pay dividends and a very handsome return over the lifetime of the beneficiary, and the ultimate beneficiary is all of us. We talked about how in this country we have school teachers and counselors and librarians and cafeteria workers and school bus drivers working 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet, though they have the most important job in front of them every single day, unlocking that lifelong love of learning within that child before them. If you can accomplish that, there is no stopping that community. There is no stopping this country. And yet that teacher, that public school educator, who we do not pay enough to, who sometimes we stint on their health care and their retirement, who nonetheless persists and also out of her own pocket, out of his own pocket, pays not just for the decorations in the classroom, not just for the supplies for the kid who forgot to bring them that day to school, but that child on free and reduced breakfast and lunch who may not have a meal waiting for her at home. Very often is that teacher out of her own pocket, though she does not have enough to make ends meet at home for herself, who pays for that meal. That child who wakes up, walks to school in the same pair of jeans, the same t-shirt Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. By Friday, that teacher out of her own pocket has paid for a new set of clothes for that kid. I want to make sure that we have that public school educator's back, that we pay her a living wage, that she works just one job, pay family needs so that she can take care of herself, her family, her folks. And I want to make sure that in a country, in the year 2019, where women on average are paid 80 cents on the dollar that men make for the same work, the same hours, the same value, where African American women are making 61 cents on the dollar that a white man makes for the same work, the same hours, and the same value, and Latinas 53 cents on the dollar for what a man makes for the same work, the same hours, and the same value, that we ensure that no one, not here in this school, not in a place of business, nowhere in American life can be discriminated against based on their gender. And that means if we want to solve this once and for all, we ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. So there's as valuable as women in this country. Without question. When it comes to healthcare, I have yet to be in a meeting like this where someone says that our healthcare system is working perfectly fine. What I do hear is that there are people with insurance who cannot afford their medications. There are nurses administering insulin who cannot afford to buy it for themselves or are rationing their care, trying to stretch it out as far as they can. Imagine this, the wealthiest, the most powerful country on the face of the planet, home to people who are dying of diabetes in the year 2019, 97 years after insulin was invented by Canadian scientists who sold it to their government for $3, 3 Canadian dollars, with no hope or prospect of profit because they wanted to save the lives of their fellow human beings. Right now, we have a golden opportunity to make sure that every single one of us, all of our kids, our folks too, are well enough to live to their full potential. That everyone can see a primary care provider afford their medication. That mental health care help, which is so often now provided in county jails in Texas, is the largest provider of mental health care services. The largest mental health care inpatient facility in the state of Texas is the Harris County Jail. At extraordinary cost and consequence to the inmates who got locked up on purpose to treat their schizophrenia or bipolar disorder or clinical depression, and to you and to me as taxpayers, $110 a night to keep them and their potential locked up. Universal health care has to mean not just primary health care, it has to mean mental health care, and it also has to mean that in a country that is losing too many women in a crisis of maternal mortality 3 times as deadly for women of color, that it means that that the 1973 decision Roe versus Wade is the accepted law of the land. Universal guaranteed high-quality healthcare for every American, without exception, may sound like an expensive proposition, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper than the way that we pay for care today in those jails, in those emergency rooms, or those who go without and lead diminished lives or lives unnecessarily cut short. We can meet that challenge as well. So whatever faces us at this moment, we have to make sure that we define ourselves by the solutions to these challenges. Not who we do not like, not who we're against, not the other political party, not folks who do not look like us and we're supposed to be afraid of and scared you about as well. It has to be a coming together. And thankfully, this country, unlike most nations on the face of the planet, has chosen to define itself not by our race or a common ancestry or an ethnicity, but this idea, 243 years and counting, that we are all created equal to equal opportunity. And that wherever you came from, whether your ancestors crossed from Siberia and the Bering Strait 10,000 years ago, whether you were brought here in the hold of a slave ship, kidnapped from West Africa to literally build the wealth of this country, whether like my ancestors you fled famine in Ireland, and I want to say a big thanks to whoever gave me the O'Rourke Farms koozie. We are people of the planet who have found a home here. And not only do we tolerate, but we embrace our differences. That is the source of our strength. My hometown of El Paso, Texas. Connected with Ciudad Juarez forms the largest binational community in the Western Hemisphere. 3 million from 2 countries, speaking 2 languages, 2 histories, 2 cultures, joined, not separated, by the Rio Grande River to form something far more powerful than the number of people or the sum of their parts. And El Paso, Texas is not just a successful city, it's not just a strong city, it is one of the safest cities in the United States of America, not despite the fact that we're a city of immigrants and asylum seekers, but because we are a city of immigrants and asylum seekers. If you bring everybody in, every single one of us, disregarding the differences, not buying into the fear that the man in power today wants us to feel about one another, finding the common ground to pursue the common cause, anything that we want to accomplish is possible for us. And good thing for us and for our kids, because the challenges before us have never been greater. And so our decision today and every day going forward is whether we will put everything that we have into this defining moment of truth for us and for this country. That's the decision that Amy and I have made, and that's why I'm running to serve you as the next president of the United States of America. Looking forward to answering your questions. Cynthia Connor, you got a microphone. So if you've got a question, a comment, a suggestion, an idea, some advice or guidance, Cynthia Connor, who's got a microphone, if you get her attention, she will bring it to you.
Oh no. My name is Robert Fairchild. During the age of the dinosaurs, carbon emissions was 100 times more than it is in the present day. So with that said, the carbon emission is one piece of the climate change. So how is your plan to deal with the other factors of climate change other than just carbon emissions?
Thank you. I'm glad you asked. The United States signed an agreement in Kigali, Rwanda, to work on more than just carbon emissions, to work on hydrofluorocarbons, which are many thousands of times deadlier in terms of the warming greenhouse effect that they have on this planet. Methane is another great opportunity. We extract a lot of oil and gas in this country and around the world. If we can control and reduce methane leaks and emissions, we're going to do a better job of reducing the warming of this planet. So those are 2 additional things that we want to do. But I just want to drive this point home. I mentioned, and you know, so I don't need to say it, what's going on with the Missouri River or the Mississippi River or Houston, Texas, or the fires or the droughts. But let me put it in this perspective. Last year, there were 400,000 apprehensions at our southern border with Mexico. And you all know full well who many of those were. They were kids. And if they were lucky, they were with their moms and their dads, fleeing some of the most brutal, violent places on the planet today. But we are increasingly seeing those who are leaving because of historic droughts in the Northern Triangle countries of Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. Soon enough, along this current trajectory, those countries and many others in this hemisphere will no longer support any human life at all. And so if we think 400,000 apprehensions is a problem, we have not seen anything yet. The competition for resources amongst our kids and their kids is going to be fierce and unfortunately violent. We still have time, and that's why I'm here right now on this stage to get this right. The scientists say 10 years left to us. And frankly, even if we do everything we can, it is still going to be worse than it is today. It's just a matter of degrees of how bad it's going to get. So I don't know about you, but I'm going to do everything within my power, including running for president and trying to bring this country together around facing this challenge before it is too late. Thank you for asking the question. Appreciate it.